The topic of dissertation is expression of verbal and non-verbal speech in English and Uzbek discourse. Scientific supervisor is Xorijiy and reviewers are and So Zilalakhon, you have only 7 minutes to explain the main aspects, main issues of the dissertation. Just talk about the points which you analyzed, which you gave us as a new thing in the field of the literature linguistics, the field of linguistics.
So, good afternoon, dear members of the Commission. My name is Xorijiy, and today I will explain my master's dissertation. The topic is expression of verbal and non-verbal speech in English and Uzbek discourse. My scientific supervisor is Associated Professor Babakal Ramazan, which
He's not associated.
he's
the
professor.
professor.
So he's a professor. And here, let me briefly tell about the whole structure of my work. It consists of introduction.
Miss this part.
Okay.
Move to
What
the main part, sort of chapter, because you have just 7 minutes.
From methodology. So, during my dissertation work, I used different kinds of methodology, like descriptive, analytical, comparative, multimodal discourse analysis. And the first step was corpus selection. First of all, I selected the videos among different kinds of interviews, and the next step was transcription. I wrote down all the videos that I watched in order to learn them in detail, and the next step was coding. I learned how verbal communication, like words, expressions, and nonverbal communication, like facial expression, gesture, body movement, and categorized them into different categories. And the last step was comparative analysis. I compared all the information in order to find similarities and differences between these two languages. And so methodological approach. I used multimodal discourse analysis, and it helped me to analyze gaze, facial expression, body movement, prosody, and etc. And the next step was conversation analysis. In this analysis, I understood what is turn taking, the structure of the whole conversation, and the speech between host and guest. And the last one was cross-cultural pragmatics. In this part, I learned politeness in both cultures, studied politeness, strategies, interpretation of speech acts, and etc. So here I gave the table, and here written the examples which I used during my work. And let me talk briefly and in detail about these examples. For example, the first one was from English talk show. The name of the show was Diplomat Show starring Jimmy Fallon, and the guest was Nicole Kidman. And during the whole speech, whole interview, the host told the guest difficult, and Nicole Kidman immediately responded, "Are you calling me difficult?" And you can see here that I gave some examples. And from verbal perspective, it's visible that spontaneous turn-taking here, humor, and informal conversation, and hierarchical question. And from non-verbal perspective, we can see smile, laughter, and laughter of audience that shows that audience engagement. And the second example was this show with Tom Holland. During the conversation, Tom Holland told about his life, and here was real life storytelling. This example gives us, from verbal perspective, self-disclosure and evaluation and explanation, host supports these follow-up questions, and from non-verbal perspective, calm tone and controlled facial expression, and etc. And unlike the humor-driven Kidman exchange, here we can see that in English talk shows, how guest can tell about his or her life story and discuss it with audience. And the next example is from Uzbek talk show. The guest was Mahmoud Namazov in MTV show. And at the beginning of the interview, host and guest are greeted like "Assalomu alaikum, Mahmoud aka, xush kelibsiz." Here we can see that very strict, polite, and formal beginning, and it can show that in Uzbek talk shows how the using words aka, opa will show respect. And from verbal perspective and from non-verbal perspective, controlled gesture while explaining, and how controlled eye contact, and etc. And the last example is the actress Aziza Begmatova. Here also the beginning part is the same, very formal, but here they used humor. Like the guest said that when the host asked, "How are you?" the guest said, "Yes, onangiz qanday, dadangiz qanday, aka, opa, xullas hamma qarindoshlarimni so'rashingiz kerak" deb tushuntirgan, because it was like humor, and the continuation was the guest used one word, jizza, but this word had different meanings in different regions, and from verbal perspective we can see politeness, formalized, from non-verbal, expressive hand gesture, frequent smiling, and etc. And unlike the previous examples, here we can see that in Uzbek talk shows also we can face with humor, but comparing with English, in English they directly tease at people, but in Uzbek it's not polite. That's why in Uzbek talk shows humor, especially about our cultures, our traditions, and etc. And here main findings, I gave them in tables. For example, first one, directiveness versus context sensitivity. And yeah. So this was the end, and thank you very much for your attention. And I will be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. So, do you have any questions?
Okay. I want to ask, you said the politeness, which methodology did you use in your research paper? And the second question is, which speech act which speech category is most frequently in work? Which speech category? How many speech categories you know?
When I categorize it, like from verbal parts, words and expressions, from non-verbal part, gestures, body movement, facial expression, intonation, prosody.
Okay, what about the speech acts? You know how many speech acts? The speech acts we have. Okay, which methodology did you use in your research paper?
Methodology, comparative method, descriptive method, multimodal discourse analysis. I use an analytical method, and qualitative method. I use it.
Okay, and here is one more question. You said that the media, am I right? From the media sheet.
Yes,
the word was the media.
Talk.
Okay, so talk shows. So did you analyze the talk shows just according to languages or according to genders as well? For instance, for instance, Uzbek people, male gender were more polite comparing from the English, or the Uzbek woman more polite from the English, the female gender. You understand me? Yes. Comparing them as well. Just in generally,
yes,
the languages you compare.
I tried to find talk shows that's similar in how host and guest conversation, but not in gender.
How do you choose your object? Which talk shows exactly you go?
Two talk shows from English part. The two nice shows starring Jimmy Fallon and from Uzbek and TV show. And the duration of these two talk shows are very similar. That's why I chose them. Host guest conversation and audience engagement.
Okay. Any criteria to just come to these decisions, just to take these two talk shows?
I analyzed a lot of talk shows. I found these two ones very similar, the structure. That's why I chose them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, just one question is over.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay, questions please?
I have a question. I have first some comments. So the first thing, in chapter 2, you're not you're giving research design materials and methods. this is very important. Why? Because it should be included in the introduction. So you're talking about research methodology, research materials, and data selection criteria already in the object, subject, introduction part. So your chapter 2 is included. I don't know just how it is accepted, but in this case now, if you can change, please change. Otherwise, I would like to ask a question about I have another comment about the topic, because the topic is like English in Uzbek discourse. This is very broad. Why? Because discourse can be according to the areas. Let's say, now you're telling talk show. Talk show discourse. It's not a discourse. It can be social media discourse. Let's say like this. It's more about like media discourse, okay? Then it's okay, like you have chosen media discourse because we can see them, we can feel their speech, and of course there is a like kind of oral discourse, yes? What can you say about verbal and non-verbal speech in a written discourse? Like, how is it different from oral discourse? Because now you are discussing oral ones. Maybe you have chosen, I don't know, maybe you have taken the subtitles in a written format. If in the subtitles you are just choosing the subtitles, it's okay. But what is the difference using verbal and non-verbal expressions in a written discourse? Like, how can you feel non-verbal discourse here?
Here, for example, if there is pause, it can show hesitation, or in Uzbek,
With the help of what they can show this one? Non-verbal speech. I think you understand what is non-verbal speech. What's that?
non-verbal speech, gestures, facial expression, intonation,
Body
philosophy, mother language,
Pause.
yes, pause.
And in social media or in the talk shows, as you mentioned, what non-verbal expressions did you notice?
Smile, like how rising intonation, or with hand movements, and facial expression that impress, to show interest.
How about in written discourse? Yes, how do you
How do
write
you
it?
write it? For example, facial expression, emotion, how do you write it? Non-verbal, but anyway, it should be shown in the talk show.
How do you
in the
make your
social
readers
media.
feel this one? Indications can be also like somehow, yes, who, wow, yes.
With
Verbs,
words they explain.
verbs.
Words.
No,
Words.
Word. All
They use words, interjections.
interjections.
Words are just very big to me.
And with punctuation.
Punctuation.
Punctuation marks. Somehow, yes.
Okay, I can show, it can be shown.
Have you discussed another question about this course? While you are discussing the conversation, yes, you are doing a conversational analysis to show non-verbal speech and verbal speech. Did you discuss any turn taking, adjacency pairs, repairing, overlapping, for example, interruption or pause or topic management in this case, like while in the talk shows?
Yeah. Here,
How was the turn taking? Just keep silent and then they can continue? So they are the discourse markers, what I told to you.
Here I thought, for example, I give some sentences and an example, and I thought, for example, in this show, when the host calls the guest, teases at guest with the word difficult, I mean the guest, Nicole Kidman, immediately answered, and here that, how can I say, spontaneous reasoning it showed. Immediately answered with rhetorical question. Yes, with rhetorical question. Here, Nicole Kidman with rhetorical question spontaneously took the turn. Turn taking here happened. And the special laugh.
Here the answer. You can do it. Yes. Okay.
So the slide also I gave my.
Questions? No questions?
I think she knows, like.
She knows
Yeah,
the subject.
she knows what is discourse and what the discourse markers.
She's within her book.
Within her.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zulmefon. Now,
Yes.
Can I sit down?
yes.
Thank you.
You may sit down. So, reviewers, the first reviewer is that the one that I given, and we will ask Abdullah not to do us a favor and to read it. Please.
79 Xorijiy til va adabiyoti ikinci bosqich magistranti Ko'rmel Vazirullah Erkinboy qizining Expression of Verbal and Non-Verbal Speech in English and Uzbek Discourse mavzusidagi magistrlik dissertatsiyasiga ichki taqriz. Demak, taqriz pozitiv yozilgan, manimcha kamchiliklar aytib o'tilmagan, faqat yutuqlar to'g'risida yozilgan va dissertatsiyaning birinchi bobi one page because magistrlik dissertatsiyasi tarkibiy jihatdan mantiqan izchil tashkil etilgan bo'lib, kirish uch bob umumiy xulosa va foydalangan adabiyotlar ro'yxatidan iborat. Dissertatsiyaning birinchi bobi Theoretical Aspects of Verbal and Non-Verbal Communication deb nomlanib, unda verbal and non-verbal kommunikatsiyaning nazariy asoslari, ularning tasnifi, ingliz va o'zbek tilshunosligiga o'rganish tarixi hamda multimodal diskursga oid ilmiy qarashlar tahlil qilingan. Muallif mazkur magistrlik dissertatsiyasi manimcha bitta varaq olib ketgan bu yerda. Chunki tugallanmay qolgan. Ayrim o'rinlarda tahlil uchun tanlangan misollar sonini yanada ko'paytirish, ayrim nazariy qarashlarni kengroq yoritish hamda statistik ma'lumotlardan foydalanishni kuchaytirish maqsadga muvofiq bo'lar edi. Biroq ushbu kamchiliklar ishning ilmiy saviyasiga jiddiy ta'sir ko'rsatmaydi va ularni tahlil jarayonida bartaraf etish mumkin. Umuman olganda, Ko'rmel Vazirullah Erkinboy qizining Expression of Verbal and Non-Verbal Speech in English and Uzbek diskurs mavzusidagi magistrlik dissertatsiyasi magistrlik dissertatsiyalarga qo'yilgan talablar darajasida bajarilgan mustaqil ish hisoblanib, dissertatsiya muvaffaqiyatli himoyaga tavsiya etaman. Demak, Osiyo xalqaro universiteti xorijiy til va ijtimoiy fanlar kafedrasi professori DS Gadura nomida Ibragimovna. Demak, tashqi taqrizchi ishning yutuqlarini bobma-bob hammasini aytib o'tganlar, shu jumladan ishda uchratilgan ba'zi kamchiliklarni ham qayd etish maqsadga muvofiq bo'ladi. Birinchidan, ayrim o'rinlarda nazariy ma'lumotlar hajmi amaliy tahlilga nisbatan kengroq yoritilgan. Ba'zi misollar bo'yicha qiyosiy tahlillar yanada chuqurlashtirilishi mumkin edi. Bibliografik rasmiylashtirishda ayrim texnik noaniqliklar mavjud deb yozganlar va xulosa qilib aytganda, Komil va Zilollaxon Erkinboy qizining Expression of Verbal and Non-Verbal Speech in English and Uzbek Discourse mavzusidagi magistrlik dissertatsiyasi magistrlik ilmiy tadqiqot ishlariga qo'yilgan talablar darajasida bajarilgan bo'lib, dolzarb va mustaqil ilmiy tadqiqot hisoblanadi. Dissertatsiya muallifi o'z mutaxassisligi bo'yicha magistr akademik darajasini olishga munosib deb hisoblayman. Buxoro davlat universiteti nemis va fransuz filologiyasi kafedrasi professori, filologiya fanlari doktori DS Adizova Obodon Islomova.
Thank you for all our members of commission, and in the future work, I of course will consider all your feedback and suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So next presenter is Ramazanova Shahnoza. Topic of the work is linguistic features of phraseological units expressing the mental state of a person and the stories of Abdullah Kakar in Ernest Hemingway. Scientific supervisor is Sayed Mustafa Doyberdiyevna, and reviewers are Gavara Zamroza Pachana and Karamatova Zarina Fatulovna, if I'm not mistaken. So you have only 7 minutes to present the main issues.
Good afternoon, dear members of the commission. My name is Ramazanova Shahnoza. My topic is linguistic features of phraseological units, expressions, mental state of person, the stories of Abdullah Kakar and Ernest Hemingway. My supervisor is Sayed Doyberdiyevna.
Siz qayerda endi? Nadizova Xolmurodova, Sharipova, Husenova, Ramazonova.
Chapter 1, Phraseologic and the Problem of the Human Mental State, English and Uzbek language. The study of phraseologic use in English and Uzbek language. Classification of the phraseologic use representing the human mental state.
We don't need, we have to
Skip chapter.
we don't need your reading your chapters and titles. Thank you.
Chapter 3, comparative features another significant short story by Kahar that focuses on the sense of illness, poverty, and woman dignity. The story.
Okay, what are those expressions showing the mental state? Expressions showing the mental state. Devam edin. Savun verin. Demek işsizliğin mavzusu phraseological units showing the mental state in the works of Abdullah Kahhor. Kıyası yemez ha? İki kişi yemez. Kıyası yemez.
Or just only one author.
Two authors.
Ondan sonra Abdullah Kahhor'dan kim? Hemingway. Hemingway cevap vermez, savun verin. Yaxşı. Phraseological unit, mental state. Ne degan mental state? Qanaqa holat? Mental. Emotional state emas, bu mental state.
Mental.
Okay, whatever. Mental state'ni ko'rsatuvchi phraseological unitlar qaysilarini topdingiz Abdullah Kahhorda va qaysilarini topdingiz Ernest Hemingway'da? O'shalarni tushuntirib bering, nima qildingiz 2 yil davomida? Hozir nimadir o'qib beryapsiz, u произношение ham juda xato, mispronouncing all the words almost. Ishni maqsadini tushuntiring, siz qilgan ishingizni biza ko'raylik. Hozircha tushuncha xuddi hech narsa qilmaganday bo'lyapti.
In English, please, Shahnoza.
Expression such of John Holland gets small, John Holland gets small to come political ill, umid uzmo, to lose hurt and good all the qorong'ulashmoq. To feel afraid or weak. Physical and emotional facts.
Emotional what? Emotional, okay. Emotional derken sözü.
Emotional and faking, fighting.
Suffering?
Fighting.
Suffering. Okay. Ernest Hemingway, Abdullah Kahhor. We don't know what this one is. Bemol is from Abdullah Kahhor, right? Okay. Ernest Hemingway. Show.
Stories.
We don't need the story of Hemingway. We need the phraseological units denoting the mental state of the characters or whatever. So, what are they? Name some of them and tell how they express this one. And that's all.
Savunga tushundingizmi Shahnoza? Nima deb savol berdilar? Tushundingizmi savolga? Javob bering. Tushungan bo'lsangiz. Savolga javob o'rgatdingizmi?
Hech narsa demayapman-ku.
Savollar
Bu hali savol emasdi. Bu dissertatsiyani o'qib bermasligingiz uchun men sizni yo'naltirmoqchi edim. Asosiy maqsad bu yetmish qilgan ishingizni ko'rsating demoqchi edim. Birdaniga prezentatsiyangizni tugatib qoldim.
Okay. Did you analyze the translation of linguistic let me see what's it first of all. Did you look through the challenges of the translation as well in your dissertation? Did you analyze translations of the physiological units in the book? Did you analyze the translation? Tarjimasini ko'rdingizmi bu narsalarni? Ko'rdingizmi? Originalni ishladingizmi? Tarjimasini ishladingizmi?
Originalni o'sha kitobni o'qib chiqib, keyin o'shani ichidagi so'zlardan oldim.
Original, okay. So your work is not connected with the translation of expressions, yeah, physiological expressions. But why do you include these challenges in interpreting and translating idiomatic expressions conveying emotions and mental states? Why do you include these things then? If you are not working with translation, if you haven't worked with translation, why do you include the challenges of translation then? It's only this one. Okay, another question is connected with the psychological states. So you have chosen two authors, Abdullah and Ernest Hemingway. Yeah? So what's the style of Abdullah Kahor in expressing psychological states of his characters, or we can say personages, and Ernest Hemingway? So so they are authors of two different countries, yeah, of two different literature. So what is their specific style to describe psychological state of the character? Can you answer? Can you please speak English? As a main issue of your dissertation, you include these things. That you say that you will look through the cultural and linguistic representation of psychological states of the characters in the works of Abdullah Kahor and Ernest Hemingway. And the last one you mentioned that you will look through the challenges of interpreting, translating idiomatic expressions which convey emotions and mental issues. So that's why I'm asking you questions. If you have these things, please show us, demonstrate. If it is given in the PPT, you may demonstrate it. Do you have this in your PPT? As a main issue of your research work, you mentioned these things. That's why I'm asking about psychological states of the characters, because even the topic of the dissertation is connected with this one, mental state of a person in the stories. That's why I'm asking you this question. Do you have any examples which show mental state of a personage, mental state of a character? Can you show us? So with this example, then you can explain the specific style of Abdullah Kahor and Ernest Hemingway.
Ikkilamda nima ish qildingiz? Shuni tushuntiring o'zbekcha. Qanaqa frazeologik birliklarni? bo'lish qani ishalar? Qani ishalar? Qiyosiy, tablitsada, unda bunday, bunda bunday degan narsa bormi? O'shani biosferaga ko'rsatmadingiz, shu bilan yo'qingiz, conclusion qildingiz.
Slaydlaringizda bormi? Analizlarni chuquring slayddan. Ko'raylik. Bir tumani
Hozirgi ana bu mayiz yemagan xotin bu frazeology unit mental state ko'rsatadiganmi? Mayiz yemagan xotin hikoyani nomimi?
Hikoyani nomi. Shu hikoyadan foydalandim.
Buni siz yozmadingizmi? Bularni kim yozgan?
Bu o'zi naqa Abdulla Qahhorning hikoyalari.
Abdulla Qahhor yozgan prezentatsiyani.
Yo'q.
Ha.
Hikoyani Abdulla Qahhor.
Bizga kim buni gapirib beradi? O'zimiz topib olishimiz kerak. Siz buni bizga tushuntirib berishimiz kerak. Biz buni bilmaymiz, biz o'rganishimiz kerak yangi narsani. Siz bizdan o'rganmoqchi bo'lyapsiz. Ochib prezentatsiya. Yaxshi.
Demak, manda 3 ta savol bor edi. Bittaga qisqartirib, ya'ni ikkitaga qisqartirib bitta berayotgan bo'ldim. Qarang, siz mana bu yerda in your work, in the aim part, you put here that the study seeks to identify the semantic meaning, structural patterns, and the stylistic functions of these two immediately also stories. Am I right? No need semantic meanings, not structural one. How you analyze the stylistic function? Can you give us from both authors' work the similarities and the differences in this? In your aim, you put it here. Out of this one, just I wanted to ask you the question because at the third chapter I didn't see any similarities which you put there, or any differences there. I didn't see any comparison there at the third chapter. That's why I'm asking. Maybe you did not put, but you know that. Stilistik jihatdan o'xshashlik va farqlarini, ya'ni siz maqsad qo'ygansizda o'rganishni shu ikkita Abdulla Qodiriy va Ernest Hemingwayda shu o'xshashligi va unaqa farqini tablitsa jihatidanmi yoki test jihatidanmi orqasida bo'lishi kerak uchinchi bobda, lekin men u narsani ko'ra olmadim. O'sha uchun sizni o'zingiz tushuntirib bera olarmikinsiz deb o'zingizdan so'rayapman. Может, men ko'zdan unaqa qilgandirman. You know that I translated my question in Uzbek in order to explain you, in order to, I mean that you could understand what you will explain to me, but please try to do it in English. You understood the question, but I guess you don't have an answer. Okay, out of your analysis, what do you think? Maybe you will give some samples. How do these two authors, I mean, that use phraseological units in their works? As an object, you, I mean, gave 4 works of Ernest Hemingway, as you put it here, 4 works from, I mean, the Abdullah Qudri. Why you did not focus on 2 works from the Ernest Hemingway and the 2, I mean, the works from the Abdullah Qudri? You understand? Yes. Okay. So, if you understand, the first question is how Ernest Hemingway and Abdullah Qudri, they used phraseological units in tushunmagansiz. Qilingan mehnatni. Rahmat. Javob berolmadilar ustoz. Dissertatsiyalar.
O'zi hammamiz ham savolimizdan javob olishga qiynalyapmiz. Xo'sh, bo'ldim, boshqa savollar yo'qmi? Savollar bo'lmasa, Shahnoza, so time for reviewing the dissertation. So the first reviewer is Adabiyoti and the second one is
hozir sizlarni e'tiborlaringizga havola etadigan taqrizimni men faqat ishni o'ziga yozib berganman. Magistrimizni, talabamizni shaxsiy fazilatlariga emas, til bilish xususiyatlariga emas, ishlarini tushungan tushunmaganligiga emas, shunchaki ish uchun, dissertatsiya uchun berilgan taqriz. Osiyo Xalqaro Universiteti 701-901 Xorijiy til va adabiyoti, ingliz tili va adabiyoti mutaxassisligi 2-bosqich magistranti Ramazonova Shahnoza qizi tomonidan magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun yozilgan magistrlik tadqiqot ishiga taqriz. Demak, yuqorida sizlar tomoningizdan berilgan savollarga barchasiga javob dissertatsiyada bor. Dissertatsiyaning yutuqlari anchagina, lekin bu yutuqlar qatorida ayrim kamchiliklar ham kuzatiladi dissertatsiyaning o'zida. Demak, iqtibosliklardagi rasmiylashtirishlarda kamchiliklar mavjud, texnik va imloviy kamchiliklar ko'zda tutiladi va bu kamchiliklarning barchasi toki tuzatildi, barchasi tuzatildi. Bu jarayonda xabarim bor, chunki Ramazon va Shahnoza bilan bir necha marta ishlarini ko'rib chiqib, qaytarib, yana ishlarini ko'rib chiqqanman. Ushbu kamchiliklar hammasi bartaraf etilgan. Shu munosabat bilan Osiyo Xalqaro Universiteti 701-901 Xorijiy til va adabiyoti, ingliz tili va adabiyoti mutaxassisligi 2-bosqich magistranti Ramazonova Shahnoza qizining o'z mutaxassisligi bo'yicha magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun yozilgan dissertatsiyasi mustaqil ravishda olib borilgan. Yakunlangan ilmiy ish bo'lib, magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun qo'yilgan dissertatsiya talablarining barchasiga to'liq mos keladi. Dissertatsiyani ijobiy baholayman va uni himoyaga tavsiya etaman.
Magistr darajasini olishga loyiq deb hisoblaysizmi?
Endi ushbu nima deydi? Ushbu xulosa shu kengash tarkibidagi barcha a'zolarga berilishni xohlagan bo'lardim. Chunki har kim o'zini shaxsiy fikrini aytishi kerak bu masalada.
Taqrizchi
sifatida men faqat dissertatsiyani ijobiy baholayman. Tashqi taqrizni ham o'qib eshittirsam maylimi?
Rahmat.
Osiyo Xalqaro Universiteti ijtimoiy fanlar va texnika fakulteti 701-901 Xorijiy til va adabiyoti mutaxassisligi magistranti Ramazonova Shahnoza qizining magistrlik dissertatsiyasiga tashqi taqriz. Demak, tashqi taqrizchimiz Karamatova Zarina Fatiloyevna ishni nima deydi, bir boshdan xulosalarigacha ko'rib chiqib, o'zlarini fikrlarini bildirgan ekanlar, yutuqli joylarini aytib o'tganlar, yozib berganlar, ular bilan bir qatorda ayrim kamchiliklarni ham ko'rsatganlar. Demak, birinchisi, ayrim o'rinlarda nazariy fikrlar va umumlashtiruvchi xulosalar takrorlangan, xususan frazeologik birliklarning til, madaniyat va psixologiya bilan bog'liqligiga oid mulohazalar bir necha bo'limlarda deyarli bir xil mazmunda qayta keltirilgan. Ikkinchisi, tadqiqotning ayrim qismlarida hikoyalarning bugungi kundagi va kelajakdagi ahamiyati haqida berilgan izohlar
mavzuning asosiy lingvistik yo'nalishidan chekinishga sabab bo'lgan. Ushbu qismlarni qisqartirish yoki umumlashtirish ishning ilmiy uslubini yanada kuchaytirgan bo'lur edi. Uchinchisi, ba'zi misollar bo'yicha lingva-kulturologik tahlil yanada chuqurlashtirilishi mumkin edi. Xususan, ayrim frazeologik birliklarning milliy madaniy komponentlari va ularning konseptual asoslari kengroq izohlanganida tadqiqotning ilmiy salmog'i yanada ortgan bo'lar edi. To'rtinchisi, dissertatsiyaning ayrim sahifalarida texnik va tahririy xatolar uchraydi. Jumladan, ayrim muallif nomlari va asar nomlarini berishda aniqlashtirish talab qilinadigan holatlar mavjud. Ushbu kamchiliklar bartaraf etildimi? Shahnoza, ishingizni to'g'rilab, yana qaytib tashqi tahlilchiga aytib berdingizmi? Yaxshi. Xo'p, o'ting. Ammo qayd etilgan kamchiliklar tavsiyaviy xarakterga ega bo'lib, ular tadqiqotning ilmiy yangiligi, nazariy ahamiyati va amaliy qiymatiga jiddiy ta'sir ko'rsatmaydi. Umuman olganda, Ramazon va Shahnoza tomonidan bajarilgan magistrlik dissertatsiyasi mustaqil bajarilgan, ilmiy jihatdan asoslangan va dolzarb mavzuga bag'ishlangan tadqiqot ishi hisoblanadi. Dissertatsiya magistrlik ishlariga qo'yiladigan talablarga to'liq javob beradi hamda uning muallifi magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun yakuniy himoyaga munosib deb hisoblanadi. Paramatova Zarina Fatilovna Buxoro davlat texnika universiteti o'zbek va xorijiy tillar kafedrasi dotsenti, filologiya fanlari bo'yicha falsafa doktori, prezident. Rahmat e'tiborlaringiz uchun.
Rahmat Ho'janova. Shahnoza, fikringiz qanday? Tahlilchilar munosabatingiz qanaqa? Bu bilan kamchiliklarni nima qildingiz? Tuzatasizmi, tan olasizmi? Tan olmaysizmi? Mana ishimiz zo'r-zo'rdan bular kuzatib ko'rolmadilar o'sha ishni deysizmi? Nima deysiz? So, next presenter is Nasima Firuza Timothy. The topic of dissertation is the principles of artistic perception of reality in the work of Ernest Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea, and the Farewell to Arms. Scientific supervisor is Xorijiy. Reviewers are Jalilova Zadnikova, and Jalilova Zadnikova.
Both of us.
Both of them. Reviewers are Jalilova Zadnikova and Jalilova Zadnikova.
Okay, good afternoon.
So, Firuza, you have only 7 minutes.
Okay, good afternoon, dear teachers. As you mentioned beforehand, my topic is the principles of artistic perception of reality in the work of Ernest Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea, and the Farewell to Arms. In the first chapter, I explained, I gave general information about Ernest Hemingway's life, career, and literary works, as well as a view of various writers and scholars regarding his life and works. In this chapter, I observed that Hemingway's literary creativity belongs with his life experience, and he transformed his life experience and his personal life into his works. In the second chapter, I gave some artistic features which he used in his works. I just underline the main force, symbolism, realism, dialogue, and understatement here, and gave some examples for the second chapter. The artistic elements and stylistic features are thoroughly and explicitly discussed in the chapter, and several textual examples are provided to illustrate and support the analysis. Due to time limitation, I would like, with your permission, to move to the third chapter, where I did my own in-depth analysis with artistic perception, which Hemingway used on his works.
First one is, there is a part from the book. The old man was seen and gone with deep wrinkles in the back of his neck. The brown blotches of the benevolent skin cancer the sun brings from its reflection on the tropic sea were on his cheeks. Through this phrase, deep wrinkles, the author emphasized the old man's advanced age and a lifetime of strenuous labor. The fact that these wrinkles appear on the back of his neck, raises them on his face, suggests that they are not merely result of age or genetic predispositions. Instead, they serve as evidence of many years spent working under harsh conditions. Similarly, the expression the brown blotches of the benevolent skin cancer indicates prolonged exposure to the sun, implying that the man has spent much of his life engaged in physically demanding outdoor work, despite the discomfort and health risk associated with such condition. And next example is, no one would steal from the old man, but it was better to take the sail and the hay lines home, as the dew was bad for them, and so he was quite sure no local people would steal from him. The old man thought that a gaff and a harpoon were needles' temptation to live in a boat. Through this sentence, the author wants to emphasize how respected the old man in his place of residence, and that no one wants to harm him. Next example is, once there had been a tinted photograph of his wife on the wall, but he had taken it down because it made him too lonely to see it, and it was on the shelf in the corner under his clean shirt. He loved his wife so much, that's why he put her photograph under his unique clean shirt. There were strange shoulders, still powerful, also very old, and the neck was still strong too. And the creases didn't show so much when the old man was asleep and his head fallen forward. By saying strange shoulders, the author is trying to say that no matter how much these shoulders suffer, they are still strong. He is not just saying that shoulders are strong, but rather explaining it in the context of this sentence. Next one is, the newspaper lay across his knees, and the weight of his arm held it dry in the evening breeze. The phrase, the weight of his arm, suggests that his arms are aching and feel heavy, but despite the pain, the man continues to use them to hold and read the newspaper. The old man knew he was going far out, and he left the smell of the land behind and rode out in the clean early morning. The smell of the land can refer to the scent associated with a person's homeland, or the smell coming from the shoreland. If the context is a sailor returning home, it may contrast with the sea and symbolize home, belonging, and memories. It doesn't usually mean the smell of the ocean unless the text specifically suggests that meaning. As I analyzed his works, we cannot find many direct artistic perception of reality from his work, but they are full of the translation of his work into Uzbek version. But I analyzed psychologically artistic perception of reality from his works. He left his own land means he left his homeland, which is very important to him emotionally and personally. The clear morning can suggest a fresh, poor, clear morning. Depending on the context, it may imply early morning, but it doesn't automatically mean very early by itself. Next example. It comes so suddenly, and such birds that fly dipping and hunting with their small sad voices are made too delicately for the sea. Sad voice implies that they are in a state of hunger. Here, the sun rose thinly from the sea, and the old man could see the other boats low and the water and well in toward to the shore spread out across the current. The sun rose thinly denotes a gradual and faint appearance of the sun, whereas it rose clear indicates the sun emerged fully and distinctly into view. Next one is, he looked down into the water and watched the lines that went straight down into the dark of the water. The dark of the water is indicative of greater water here. I can do nothing with him and he can do nothing with me, he thought. Not as long as he keeps this up. The statement implies that the fish possessed great strength and perseverance, continuing to resist the old man's efforts rather than yielding easily.
Firuza, time's up. Questions, please?
I have many examples which I gave from the book.
Thank you. Which
Yes.
is that you have many examples?
But you said you don't have many examples, and that's
No,
why the translation.
We cannot
is-
find direct artistic perception in the real book, in the English version, but if we analyze from point of psychology, they are full of them here.
Okay. What do you mention by artistic perception? Is there any other types of perception?
Direct artistic.
No, direct artistic perception. We can, for example, artistic perception of reality, it is describing something by colorful words.
Perception and description. Are they two different notions?
Yes, they are different, something a little bit different,
Perception of
but
who?
Okay, perception of what? What perception of reality? So artistic perception, you say, who can perceive this?
Reader or writer?
no,
Artistic perception of
Ar-
reality.
artistic
Who
of
should
perception of-
perceive it?
writer, of course.
Writers?
No, they can belong to nature, person, anything. For the sea also, it can be used for anything. But the author will use such things on his work.
You didn't understand that question. I'm asking Firuza, what's perception itself, first of all? Is it different from description?
They are somehow similar.
Similar? Perception and description.
Now, in context, if we gave from the context and from my analysis, artistic perception of reality, it is given description for the objects inside of the work.
Okay, if it is description, why do you use perception? Perception, it is when you read the book and when you feel, yeah, when you feel,
Now
for
I will
example,
explain.
sorry for a fish or for,
Yes, I will
for
explain
the
it.
old man.
When-
This is perception.
Yes,
So you
when we
feel that
analyze,
situation.
Uzbek version of the Old Man and the Sea,
Mm.
we can find any kind of artistic perception of reality inside of the
Who
translation.
we? Who?
Readers,
Okay.
yes,
Tell us readers.
but
why do you tell author? Author's intention to show the reality can be perceived by readers.
audience, yeah, by readers.
Should be very careful about perception.
Okay.
We cannot imagine how did he perceive.
Yes, that's why I also use this thing and I analyze it from point of psychology.
O'qiylikni badiiy idrok etish
Yes.
qanday qabul qiladi o'quvchi uni? Kitobni qanday qabul qiladi? Description of the author deysiz?
No, author gave his description on
Okay,
his work and
how
he
as a
perceived it
reader
by
you
ourselves.
perceive it? How?
Yes.
So what is artistic perception then?
Artistik mahorat bilan.
Yes.
Qanday qabul qilamiz? Shuni bizga tushuntirib
Bu
bering.
yerda analizlar bor.
I can analyze it differently, you can analyze it, you
Shu
can feel
artistik
it.
fikrlarni ma'no shu.
Analyzing viewpoints.
It is
From your own
understanding,
viewpoint, now you
our mental understanding from the book,
Okay.
from the parts of these novels and short stories.
Do you mention, perception is different in different people?
Yes,
You want to say this one?
yes.
Thank you. Then I will ask you another question. So what do you mention by nuanced understanding? What is nuanced understanding?
It means
Is it the same with different perception? Or it's another thing? What's that?
no, it means we can analyze something with emotion or without emotion. We can read the story or read something with emotion, without emotion, with sad feeling, with happiness. And it is, I can say here that we will understand something by differently with our, according to our feelings.
So this is nuanced understanding.
Yes.
Understand anything using our feelings.
Not just using our feelings, according our position.
So how many times did you read this book?
I read 2 times in Uzbek
Okay.
version.
How did you perceive the reality artistically each time? Was it the same or different?
No, they are different. First of all, when I read Uzbek version, the translation is really good here, and it is opened very
So
clearly.
you prefer translated version rather than original?
No, first, when I read original version first time, I didn't understand anything. I didn't
So you
feel why
couldn't
Ernest
perceive
Hemingway,
the reality at
yes,
all?
why Ernest Hemingway is so popular and why he get the Nobel Prize for his works. But when I started analyzing it psychologically, they are very perfect.
Okay, what is the reality there?
Reality, for example, fish, big fish is a reality here. But old man says that he is very wisdom and he knows everything. And here he respected fish very much. From this point, by using artistic perception, just big fish described and showed here as a wise man.
Okay, I have several comments on the paper. The first comment, actually this one is like on literature, but not teaching. In your chapter 1, you included using the biographical method in classes on foreign literature. So I'm so much excited. Why did you include like teaching biographical method in English classes? So there is no teaching at all, okay? Just in your topic. And the next one about chapter 3, really just you're giving here artistic perception of reality in the old manancy for a more nuanced understanding. So nuanced understanding for us, it was something like different. And then we checked it, this is Tonke Panimani. So you should deeply understand what is the reality. But the reality mostly happens according to the situation. So there was a situation like he was alone. He had nobody around. And he like kind of had some kind of affection towards fish. Why? Because there was only fish here. Nobody around him. And he can respect this fish. Now, that is not that you can understand, because whenever you don't feel this situation, you cannot understand the reality, because reality is for that person. So now artistic perception of reality is somehow very different. From whose perspective? From the reader's perspective. Then you are talking a lot about we. So how many people could you see that they could understand this artistically? They perceived this reality artistically. You didn't have any survey with people, so you don't have another reader except you. You are here alone to read, so you can use I did it, not
We
we.
did it with our supervisor.
But
that's
your
why.
supervisor, did she tell anything about her readings? Because, you know, just while I asked you question, like, how many times did you read? And so, whenever you read, like, different times, and you have different psychological position, and you have, like, maybe imagine you are concentrating on the topic rather than other problems of yours, and then you will understand differently. So artistic perception of reality differs from one person even, not from other individuals. So your supervisor is just assisting you in this case to understand, that's all. Her perception is not accepted by you. Just think about this one.
Okay.
I don't understand really just what you want to show us, what you have done, because what I'm thinking now, in 2005, 25 years ago, when I finished a master's degree, I did the same topic. Can you imagine this one? 20 years ago. So why we are keeping this topic after 20 years? Because we are already in another position of teaching literature and teaching English language. That's very old topic of discussion, really. Just man uchun voqelikni badiiy qabul qilish masalasi har bir individual uchun turlicha. Har bir o'sha individni ham har bir pozitsiyasi uchun turlicha. Bugun o'qigan narsamni ertaman rad qilishim mumkin. Ertaman balo edi bu deb.
Men o'zbek tilida o'qiganimda ham boshqacha ma'no edi, ingliz tilida ham boshqacha ma'no edi.
Aytayotgan biyiz bizlar uchun juda yomon. Nima? Kim u biylar? Kim? Nechi kishi bor?
As a respect for my supervisor, I use it. It is somehow egoistic. Shameful for me.
Okay, just from your perspective, you should understand this. Yeah. These are my comments, that's all. But if you want to continue your research, let's say I want to do some PhD degree levels, please don't work on this topic.
Okay.
This is very old topic in discussion. Any other questions?
I've got something to say, not the question. You mentioned that, artistic perception by reader, you said, right? Readers artistic perception, you said, not the authors.
No, perception, it is from point of readers.
From point of readers, there is the analyzing viewpoint, analyzing viewpoints, artistic perceptions of reality. Deyapsiz, bu reader tomonidan deb aytyapsiz-da, shunday. Keyingisiga qarasangiz agar, bu yerda o'sha readers emas-da, bu yerda Hemingway'ni o'zi bo'lyapti.
Yo'q, Hemingway'ni asari.
Hemingway uses artistic perception there.
He uses artistic perception here and analyzes this one.
Bu ham Hemingway. Просто bu boshqa asar, bu boshqa asar. Ikkalasi ham Hemingway'niki, bu kishi readerni to'laydi-da.
Hemingway uses deb beryapti.
Bu yerda boshqa chaqirishmaydi.
Yo'q, ichida unaqa deyilmagan. Hozir
Analyzing viewpoints degani, literature review degani, bu haqida boshqalarning fikrini jamladingiz degani. Sizniki yoki qaysidir o'quvchiniki emas, olimlar o'qiydi, u haqida fikrini yozadi. Analyzing viewpoints o'sha degani. O'sha qanaqa viewpointlar bor ekan?
Many authors analyzed his works, and they analyzed it from the point of symbolism, realism, dialogue style, and understatement.
Viewpoints on artistic perception of reality.
Perception of reality also, they described it, and I just gave some general information about them, and I gave my own analysis on the subject.
No need your own analysis. Your chapter 3.1 is dedicated to analyzing viewpoints. So show us the viewpoints and explain one by one who told who. Okay? And shu viewpointlar qarashlardi.
I gave this one. I gave some describing analysis on my second chapter, and for the continuation, I gave just my analysis on the third chapter.
O'zi yozib qo'yibsiz-ku, analyzing viewpoints deb. Shunchaki yozdik.
No.
Qani
ikkinchi
o'sha
chaptada man berganman ularni.
ikkinchi chapterni hech kim so'ramayapti. Sizdan uchuburni so'rayapman. Uchuburda
I just
yozib
gave my
qo'ygansiz.
own analysis by reading their opinions.
Analyzing viewpoints degani mening o'zimni analizim degani. Viewpoints nima degani?
Qarashlarni
O'sh
analysis.
qani o'sha qarashlar? O'sh
I gave just author's viewpoint here. Not
avtorning qarashlari bor.
author gave artistic perception of reality in his words. I just analyze them by detecting them here.
Thank you.
Thank you. No questions? Do you have any questions? No questions. Okay, thank you. Firuza, thank you for your presentation. So, the first we do is general learning of the document is just do a favor and read all the comments. Thank you.
Assalomu alaykum janob. Osiyo xalqaro universiteti ijtimoiy fanlar va texnika fakulteti xorijiy til va ijtimoiy fanlar kafedrasi 701 xorijiy til va adabiyoti ingliz tili mutaxassisligi magistranti Nasimova Firuza Timur qizining magistrlik dissertatsiyasiga ichki taqriz. Magistrlik dissertatsiyasini o'rganish jarayoniga quyidagi tavsiyaviy xarakterdagi kamchiliklar aniqlandi. Tadqiqot obyekti va predmet ayrim qismlarda bir-biri bilan aralashib ketgan. Inglizcha annotatsiyasida obyekt sifatida asarlar ko'rsatilgan bo'lsa-da, o'zbekcha annotatsiyada obyekt va predmet izohi boshqa shaklda berilgan. Obyekt sifatida Hemingwayning The Old Man and the Sea va A Farewell to Art asarlari, predmet sifatida esa ularning voqelik, badiiylik, idrok etish tamoyillari aniq ajratilishi kerak. Kirish qismida main issues and hypotheses bandida mavzuga mos kelmaydigan jumla uchraydi. Xususan unda investment project in the field of the foreign languages haqida fikr berilgan. Bu Hemingway ijodi va badiiy voqelik tahliga aloqador emas, shuning uchun mazkur qism to'liq qayta yozilishi lozim. Boblar nomlanishiga mavzu bilan bog'liq ayrim o'rinlarda yetarlicha izchil emas. Masalan, birinchi bob American short fiction haqida bo'lsa-da, tadqiqotning asosiy obyekti sifatida The Old Man and the Sea hamda A Farewell to Arms tanlangan. Bu nomi asosiy tadqiqot yo'nalishiga mos ravishda Hemingway ijod va badiiy idrok masalasiga yaqinlashtirilsa, ish tuzilmasi yanada izchil bo'lar edi. Ayrim o'rinlarda tarixiy adabiy faktlar va asar nomlari aniqlashtirishni talab qiladi. Masalan, who's the bong calling shaklidagi ifoda misoli bo'lib Hemingwayning The Form, The Whom, The Bell, For Whom The Bell Tolls asari nazarda tutilgan bo'lishi mumkin. Shuningdek, The Old Man and the Sea ning nashr sanasi, yozilishi joyi va biografik ma'lumotlar ilmiy manbalar asosida qayta tekshirilishi zarur. Matnda ingliz tilida ilmiy grammatik usulda xatoliklar uchraydi. Bu hammasi berilgan. Ayrim tahliliy qismlar ilmiy izohdan ko'ra oddiy mazmuniy sharhga yaqin. Masalan, said voice means they are hungry, the sun rose, thinly means the sun rose slowly kabi izohlar badiiy tasvirning ramziy, stilistik va semantik qatlamlarini yetarlicha ochmaydi. Bunday joylarda ilmiy terminlar asosida chuqurroq adabiyotshunoslik tahlili berilishi kerak. Xulosa qismida hajmi ortiqcha kengaygan va ayrim bandlarda kirish hamda boblar xulosalaridagi fikrlar takrorlangan. Umumiy xulosa asosiy ilmiy natijani ixcham va aniq tadqiqot vazifalariga mos holda berilishi, umumiy tavsifiy gaplar kamaytirilishi maqsadga muvofiq. Qo'llanilgan adabiyotlar ro'yxati bibliografik rasmiylashtirish bo'yicha kamchiliklar mavjud. Ko'rsatilgan kamchiliklar dissertatsiyaning umumiy ilmiy ahamiyatini inkor etmaydi, balki uning nazariy aniqligi, metodologik ishchilligi, lingvistik sifati va rasmiylashtirish darajasini yanada yaxshilashga xizmat qiladi. Xulosa qilib aytganda, Nasimova Firuza Timur qizining magistrlik dissertatsiyasi 701/109/01 xorijiy til va adabiyot ingliz tili mutaxassisligi bo'yicha magistrlik dissertatsiyasiga qo'yiladigan talablarga javob beradi va muallifga magistrlik akademik darajasini berish uchun tavsiya etiladi. Taqrizchi Zamin Korobinni Osiyo xalqaro universiteti professori. Demak, agar ruxsatlar bilan tashqi taqrizni ham o'qib eshittirsam, demak, o'zimni adashim, ham familiyadoshim, ham ismdoshim deyman. Xo'p,
Oysa Xalqaro universiteti ijtimoiy fanlar va texnika fakulteti 701 xorijiy til adabiyoti, ingliz tili adabiyoti mutaxassisligi ikkinchi bosqich magistrantı Nasiya Firuza Timur qizi in the principles of the articles perception of the reality in the words of the Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea and Farewell to Our mavzusidagi dissertatsiyasiga tashqi taqrizni asosiy qismi. Shu bilan birga ishda ayrim takomillashtirish mumkin bo'lgan jihatlar mavjud. Jumladan birinchi bobda ayrim joylarda fikrlar takrorlanishi kuzatiladi. Ba'zi ilmiy tushunchalarda yanada aniqroq ta'rif berish maqsadga muvofiq stilistik jihatdan qisqartirish va soddalashtirish imkoniyati mavjud. Ishning ayrim joylarida fikrlar ortiqcha takrorlangan, ba'zi jumlalar hajman juda uzun bo'lib, ularni soddalashtirish mumkin. Ayrim nazariy tushunchalar, masalan, realizm yoki badiiy idrok yanada aniqroq strukturalangan holda berilishi maqsadga muvofiq. Ba'zi tarjima yoki terminologik noaniqliklar, masalan, asar nomlari yoki atamalarda uchraydi. Iqtiboslar tizimli ravishda rasmiylashtirilsa, ilmiy qiymati yanada oshadi. Biroq ushbu kamchiliklar ishning umumiy ilmiy qiymatini kamaytirmaydi. Xulosa qilib aytganda, mazkur ilmiy ish o'zining dolzarbligi, ilmiy yangiligi, nazariy va amaliy ahamiyati bilan ajralib turadi. Hamda oliy ta'lim tizimida magistrlik dissertatsiyasi sifatida himoya qilish uchun tavsiya etiladi. Taqrizchi Buxoro davlat universiteti ingliz tilshunosligi kafedrasi dotsenti, filologiya fanlari bo'yicha falsafa doktori Jalilova Zarinibov Bahodirova. E'tiborlaringiz uchun rahmat.
So, Firuza, your responses to your viewers. Will you admit all
Yes,
the
I admit
comments which were given by your
Yes,
colleagues?
I admit it.
Okay. Have you corrected any of them? Or will you correct
Everything.
in future research?
In future research, as she gave me some advices to choose another topic, but we can do many things with this topic also. I will
Many things which is new.
new things. Yeah.
You should do new things,
Yes.
new investigations, okay? Thank you. Thank you, Firuza. So, next presenter is Nasliva Mahmoudov, Skandar Kızı. The topic of dissertation is the problems of female emancipation and the peculiarities of the creation of the female character in the novels of Charlotte von Terrenel, Jane Eyre, and George Eliot, The Meal on the Floors. Scientific supervisor Sayıda Zikizar Kudayberdi'na, reviewers are Gadoyeva Mdemirgin and Lavra Mukhayo Hasanova. So, Mukhayo Skandarova, you have 7 minutes.
Good afternoon, dear members of the examination committee and my honored teachers. Today's topic. First of all, I am going to stand here and I am going to present my dissertation work entitled The Moment of Male Emancipation and the Peculiarities of Female Creation of Character in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre and George Eliot's The Meal on the Floors. First of all, I would say the relevance of this research lies in the fact that issues related to women's rights, gender equality, personal freedom, and social recognition remain highly significant in modern society. So this dissertation work is important. And object of this research work, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte and The Meal on the Floors by George Eliot. My dissertation work contains three chapters, 6 paragraphs and 9 pages consists of, and the research focuses. The research studies how female character are constructed as thinking, feeling, morally active and social limited subjects in Victorian fiction. And I will give a brief explanation of chapters. Okay.
No need to explanation for the first and the second
chapter.
Second chapter?
No need for the second
okay,
chapter
so-
also.
Okay, I will begin. Last chapter, and last chapter presents a comparative analysis of female subjectivity and gender social constraints in both novels. The comparative study shows that Charlotte Brontë and George Eliot employ different narrative technique. First of all, Jane Eyre, Charlotte Brontë, in Jane Eyre, Charlotte Brontë used first narrative autobiographical. Brontë, sorry. Brontë used first person narrative, autobiographical narrative, and George Eliot used in The Will on the Floss third person narrative. Also, yet both authors successfully portrays the psychological depth of female experience. Particular attention in both novels is devoted to themes of marriage, education, and economic dependency. The research demonstrates that education functions as a tool of development, while economic dependency often serves a mechanism of social control over women. I took some examples from both novels in order to express Jane Eyre and Maggie Tulliver. In George The Will on the Floss. First example. First examples took from Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. Bird and net from Jane Eyre uses metaphor to express Jane Eyre inner feelings, her struggles against for resistance, social rights. For example, the dissertation interprets Jane's first-person declaration as a direct rejection of emotional and social confinement. The second.
What?
Second example from The Will on the Floss by George Eliot. Maggie Tulliver, intelligence without social space. It is a pity she isn't made of commoner stuff. She will be thrown away. I doubt there will be nobody to marry her as is fit for her, said Maggie's father. Maggie's father said her mother. I took from their dialect analysis. Maggie Tulliver. The analysis explains that Maggie's exceptional mind is recognized because Maggie was very clever than her brother Tom, but her father said only through the narrow language of marriage her intelligence does not create freedom in Victorian period in England. It makes her difficult to place in Victorian society. Eliot presents female giftedness as blocked potential. Also, I have. She hungered for an interview with Lucy, if I were only for 5 minutes, to utter a word of penitence. The dissertation treats this passage as evidence of Maggie's moral self-consciousness. She is not only afraid of public shame, she suffers from, she fears that Lucy may see her as a false. So Eliot's psychological realism makes the tragedy inverse and ethical. I have one more example from Jane Eyre. For example, you have no business. I took this example from dialect John Reed and Jane Eyre. John Reed said to Jane Eyre, you have no business to take our books. You are a dependent, Mama says. You have no money. Your father left you none. This extract shows the section of gender, class, and dependency. John Reed attacks Jane not only physically but also socially dependent. Also, I have comparative character construction from both novels, Jane Eyre and Maggie Tulliver. As I below mentioned, Charlotte Bronte used Jane Eyre first person autobiographical narration, and Maggie George Eliot used third person psychological realism. Direct control over her own story in Jane Eyre, and narrator enters deeply into her emotional world in George Zemil on the Floss. Also, in Jane Eyre, Jane against pain, anger, moral choice, and independence are spoken in her own voice. And in the Mill on the Floss, in Maggie Tulliver's guilt, desire, duty, and moral conflict are carefully revealed. In Jane Eyre, narrative voice becomes a form.
Your time is over.
Sorry.
Thank you for your presentation. Please, if you have any questions. Any questions?
Okay, I have some comments. Very long topic, 28 words. It was so difficult for you, I think. So, emancipation of women. So, what do you think? What can be difficult, or what is difficult of creating woman character for authors?
Especially Victorian period?
Let's say Victorian period.
Let me see.
Don't you think that authors can have difficulty in creating men characters, but it's difficult for them to create woman characters?
I mean, women character is difficult because a woman's inner feelings always women's doesn't women do not understand by others because women do not express their feelings directly. So woman character and woman feelings or woman positions may be difficult creation in some kind of maybe works or the novels.
Could you find any facts that, let's say, the authors, like Charlotte Bronte or George Eliot, mentioned that they had a problem creating women characters?
Yes,
Or just this is your own understanding, your own suggestion that they had a problem in creating women characters? Maybe they enjoyed. Maybe it was very easy for them.
No, in Victorian society, women authors, female authors, had resistance to write. Maybe George Eliot used male name. George Eliot, Anna, her original name, or George Eliot, male names that used for interpreting of her works.
Once again, please.
Sorry, George Eliot used male name. George Eliot was for woman name and
woman name for male name. What do you mean?
No,
The author used what?
Yeah, resistance program. Maybe you know speak. Teacher, shunchalik resistance was very strong in Victorian period. So George Eliot used ayollar aslida foydalan olmaganda, erkaklar aslida foydalagan holatda chiqargan. Yes. Her name Anna.
Kahramonlar için ayol oturma kitapta.
Yes.
Kahramonlar Kitabın adını mı?
Maggie Tulliver, first character in The Mill on the Floss.
So she is using. Georgia'yla bir şeyler konuşuyorlar. Bu
Yok, gender'da bulmaganda просто resistance situation olmak gereken. Bu bir şey anda. When I was searching, I came across such kind of information. So I say about it.
Problem of female. Movement to tragic. Why are you moving this one? I'm reading that. Put it back.
This one?
Normalde mamız. Kayseri'de uşanı değil.
Mana.
The last criteria.
Examples.
The last.
Yo, oh, yeah.
Also,
Also the point, movement towards self-definition and equality.
Tragic limitation. Nima qilmoqchisiz? Nimaga tegyapsiz prezentatsiyaga?
Yo, o'sha sizlarga
Men aytgan narsa turgandi o'sha yerda. Ana shu. The last feature. Moving toward tragic limitation. What do you mean by this?
This related to Maggie Tulliver story from The Mill on the Floss. To comparative Jane Eyre, Maggie Tulliver seek her freedom or self-realization, but Maggie Tulliver did not achieve her goal. Tragic one. Maggie Tulliver, in the end of the novel, Maggie Tulliver died. So,
What do you mean by limitation? It's not limitation? Limitation.
Yeah, limitation.
What do you mean by limitation? Tragic limitation. So she died, you mean?
Yes.
And how does it show the character problem, female problem?
Yeah, the female problem.
Where is female problem? Because she died?
Yo, at the end.
Everyone dies.
Yo, at the end of the novel, in The Mill on the Floss, Maggie Tulliver indirectly.
At the end of Sister Carrie, all men die.
Yes, I know.
Carrie lives. But
Maggie Tulliver did not say her problems directly.
bunu ölganda muammoz
Yo.
cheklabdim.
Yeah, o'sha according to female resistance, female problems, her story ends tragic.
So in Jane Eyre, it doesn't end tragically.
No.
The female problem yok Jane Eyre.
Yo, bunda ham bor. Ikkovini nima deydi? Different their struggle. Kurashishi bilan da farqi. O'sha.
PLC.
Yes.
May I ask?
Yangiligi nima? Yangiligini aytsin. Nasıl yangi bu ishni?
Today o'ylab, Jane
Manimcha bugun o'zi bir 3 kishi Jane Eyre bilan chiqdi.
First of all, it was proved that female characters in Jane Eyre
Yangiligini o'qib berasizmi?
no. The Mill on the Floss represents struggles, desires, and resistance of women in male-dominated society. It was proved that female characters in Jane Eyre and The Mill on the Floss reflect women's struggle with social rule, personal emotions, and inner psychological conflicts. Also,
It
Birinchi
was
kun gender problems edi Gen Air'da, ikkinchi kun feminism bo'ldi Gen Air'da, ana endi female problems bo'ldi.
Endi female character yaratishdagi problem.
Yaratishdagi. O'sha qanaqa ekan, o'sha yaratishdagi muammolar.
Women are not taken serious.
O'sha uchun shunday tanlagan. U hech qanaqa ayol erkak o'rtasidagi birovni nimani ko'rsatmagan u. Shunchaki
yo'q, o'sha davrda restriction bo'lgan-ku, ayollar yozish ham mumkin bo'lmagan. O'sha uchun ham bu
ayol obrazini yaratishdagi muammolar ekan mavzu. So'yish birinchi muammo, ikkinchi muammo, uchinchi muammo, to'rtinchi muammo qaysilar ekan? Demak, ayol obrazini yaratishda muammolar bor ekan. O'sha qaysilar ekan? Asosiy ishingizni o'zi.
We will take Jane Eyre and Zamil on the floors. They struggle for education. First of all, independence. The second, self-realization. They wanted self-realization in her society, in their society. And the next, education. Was very powerful tool for a woman in Victorian society. Also, money, inheritance. So these problems.
Are you talking about the character or also? So the problem.
Character.
What the problems? Whose problems are you talking about? Characters.
Yes, character.
But the question was different.
All sorts.
The question was, what are the problems you faced? Not you faced, you analyzed, investigated. That was your aim. Yeah. To create human characters in the now. Creating problems. Creating problems. Yeah. Problems in creating. Shumi mavzuyuz? Ayol obrazini yaratishdagi muammolarmi? Birinchi muammo qaysi edi, ikkinchi muammo qaysi edi, uchinchi muammo qaysi edi? Nima unaqa avtorni eri urishdimi? Qanaqa muammoga uchradi? Nima muammo? Asarning tahlili bu narsani ochib beryaptimi sizga? Asarning tahlili, asar tahlil, yaxshi tahlil bo'lagan. Ochib berdimi shuni?
Qisqacha ochib beradi o'sha from the example.
O'zbekcha ayting. Boshqa narsani aytib ketasiz-da ingliz tilida.
Yo'q, mana shu examplelarni olganda ham, misol uchun, Maggie Tureverni otasi aytayapti-da, masalan, kerakdan ortiqcha aqlli, misol uchun, Maggie Turever. Buni hozir bizga masalan, aqli yoki nimasi kerak emas. Agar u masalan, Victorian societyda ko'pincha ayollarni o'sha obedient bo'lgan, o'sha nima deydi, home angle sifatida qaralgan-ku, misol uchun, kutilgan-ku. O'shani aytayapti, buni aqlli
muammo ayollar aqlsiz bo'lgan, lekin asarda ularni aqlli qilib berish qiyinlik bo'lgan.
Boshqacha javob bering. Mana
ayollarni qabul qilish qiyin bo'lgan o'sha jamoa.
aytdingiz-ku, nutqini tasvirlash, psixologik holatini tasvirlash qiyin deb. Nimaga endi boshqa javob berdingiz? O'zingiz aytib ketdingiz, nutqingiz.
O'zi qarshi gapiradi. O'zicha oqlayman o'zimni deb kim bilan aytmasanglar. Boshda aytgan gaplarni keyin teskarisini ignatlab chiqiladilar, o'zlari qarshi gapiradilar.
Demak, bitta muammo.
Tasvirlash qiyin ekan, shundaymi?
Bitta shu tasvirlash qiyin. Qiyinchiliklarni topganingiz tasvirlash qiyinligimi? Tasvirlashdagi qiyinchiliklarni tasvirlashning qiyinligi. Yaxshi. Hamma gap o'shandaki, ishingizning maqsadi asardagi ayol obrazini yaratishdagi muammolarni topishingiz kerak edi. Siz qilgan ish qanaqadir narrative analysis, character analysis.
Character analysis. O'sha Johnsonga ishlagan yo'qda unaqa. O'sirsizlarni nimasi bo'yicha.
Ishingizda
Yo'q,
ishingizda shu female emancipation and the peculiarities of creation deyapsiz. o'sha ayollarning ozodligiyu yana o'sha ayol xarakterlarini yaratishdagi o'zida xosligi ikkita yozuvchi ijodida kompetitiv analiz bo'lishi kerak va ularni o'sha o'ziga xos xususiyatlarini shuni ochib berishingiz kerak, tamom, boshqa hech narsa emas. Qiyinchiliklari nima edi? Yaratishda ayol qahramonlarni va hokazo. Okay. No questions? Any more questions? No questions. Okay, if you don't have any questions, thank you. The first review is Malude Legumana.
Nasiba Mahyo Iskandar qizining The Problems of Female Emancipation and the Peculiarities of the Creation of the Female Characters in Charlotte Zorunda Janair and Elliot Zemilo on the Floors, juda uzun ekan haqida. Mavzusidagi magistrlik dissertatsiyasiga taqrizchi asosiy demak ishning yutuqlarini boqma-boq sanab o'tganlar hamda demak ba'zi bir kamchiliklarni talqin qilganlar. Demak narrativ uslub nuqtai nazaridan bironta birinchi shaxs orqali qahramonga to'liq subyektivlik beradi. Elliot esa uchinchi shaxs orqali psixologik realizmni kuchaytiradi. Ushbu farq ayol obrazining shakllanishida muhim rol o'ynaydi. Hozir bir minut. Shu bilan birga bobda ayrim fikrlarning takrorlanishi kuzatilgan. Ularni umumlashtirish va ixchamlashtirish matnning ilmiy aniqligini oshirgan bo'lar edi deb quyidagi demak kamchiliklarni bildirganlar. Bobning muhim ilmiy natijasi shundan iboratki, ikki asar ayol taqdirining ikki modelini ifodalaydi. Biri mustaqillikka erishgan ayol obrazi, ikkinchi ijtimoiy cheklovlar tufayli rivoji to'xtatilgan ayol obrazi. Demak, taqrizning asosiy matni ishni yutuqlari bilan tanishtirish va faqatgina shu ba'zi fikrlarning takrorlanganligi hamda ba'zi bir matnda umumlashtirish va ixchamlashtirish mumkin bo'lgan bo'limlarni aytganlar. Xulosa qilib aytganda, dissertatsiya mustaqil tadqiqot sifatida bajarilgan bo'lib, u ilmiy mezonlarga mos keladi. Mavzu to'liq va asosga yoritilgan hamda muallifning ilmiy tadqiqot ko'nikmalari yetarli darajada namoyon etilgan deb yozganlar. Demak, xorijiy til va ijtimoiy fanlar kafedrasi professori Tez Gadova Mavda Ibragimova. Shu nuqtai nazardan, demak, ishimizning ikkinchi taqrizchimizning taqrizlarida ham ishning asosiy yutuqlari aytib o'tilgan. Shu bilan birga dissertatsiyada ayrim joylarda nazariy fikrlarning yetarlicha keng ilmiy manbalar bilan mustahkamlanmaganligi kuzatiladi. Ba'zi bo'limlarda iqtiboslar hajmi ortib ketib, tahliliy yondashuvni biroz cheklab qo'ygan. Shuningdek, ayrim fikrlar takroriy ifodalangan bo'lib, ularni yanada ixcham va o'zlashtirilgan holda berish ishning ilmiy uslubini kuchaytirgan bo'luv edi deb fikrlarni bildirganlar. Xulosa qilib aytganda, mazkur dissertatsiya mustaqil ilmiy tadqiqot sifatida bajarilgan bo'lib, unda qo'yilgan maqsad vazifalar to'liq amalga oshirilgan, ish ilmiy talablarga javob beradi, mavzu chuqur va izchil yoritilgan hamda muallifning ilmiy tadqiqot olib borish salohiyati yetarli darajada namoyon bo'lgan. Demak, Buxoro davlat tibbiyot instituti o'zbek tili va adabiyoti, rus va ingliz tili kafedrasi mudiri, dissertatsiya davlat va Muhayyo Hasan.
Fikrlaringiz, munosabatingiz
xatolarimdan hozir anglagan holda I will follow all of your advices and in the future I will choose another topic.
Hatto'yingizni faqat oxirgi kun ana shu bosqichga kelganda tushundingizmi? Himoyaga kelganda tushundingizmi? Shu vaqtgacha tushunmagandingizmi xatingizni?
To'g'risi, xarakter bo'yicha ko'proq ishlab, faqat o'sha ichiga kirib ketgan.
Siz mavzusiga e'tiborda tadqiqotchilarni, o'sha magistrantlarni eng katta xatosi shuki, mavzu qolib ketadi yoqqa, boshqa narsani tahlil qiladi. Shu xatolaringiz shunday. E'tibor bermaysizlar, nazariyani qarab chiqmaysizlar. Sizgacha bu narsalar million marta o'rganilgan. Ana o'sha million marta o'rganilgan narsadan nimani siz farqli ravishda beryapsiz? O'shani bilish uchun ham siz buddacha ishlanib ko'rishingiz kerak. Bizlarni nimalarimizni magistrlarimizda eng katta nimasi rangasa o'qimaydi ana shu nazariy manbalarni. O'zigacha bo'lgan ilmiy ishlarni o'qimaydi. Bitta sizga emas, hammaga tegishli. Yoshlarimiz o'zi ChatGPTga yopishib qolgan, shu bitta ma'lumot kerak bo'lsa ham ChatGPTga u rostmi, yolg'onmi, to'g'rimi, noto'g'rimi, faktmi yoki uydirmami ish olib ketaveradi. Yo'q, ilmiy ish bu ChatGPTdagi uydirmaga ishonish emas. To'g'ri, ba'zi qismlarda ChatGPTdan foydalanishingiz mumkin. Ishingizni umumlashtirib, xulosalar chiqarishda. Qayerdadir bir literature reviewlarda kimlar shu sohada ishlaganini qidirish uchun ishlatish mumkin, search qilish mumkin-da. Lekin har doim bunga ссылаться qilish mumkin emas. Unga har doim tayanib ilmiy ish yozib bermaydi. Bu hammaga tegishli. And the last presenter of today's defense is Honorable Nicola Igodina. The topic of the dissertation is the Eastern theme in English literature of the 18th century. The scientific supervisor is Yusuf Ubaydilova-Tamna. Reviewers are Gafara Zokhajovna and Rajiabova Madina. Rajabova Marjona. Marjona.
Good afternoon, my dear teachers. My name is Honorable Nicola Igodina. My scientific supervisor, associate professor, Yusuf Ubaydilova-Tamna. Let me move on to the main part of my presentation. So,
Do please.
our dissertation topic is the Eastern scene in English literature of the 18th century. And and the influence of the Eastern scene on the development of English literature. And Orientalism. The Oriental themes in 18th century English drama. This chapter is trained with original extracts from raw food and Bedford, and each example shows how to stage Oriental narrative turn the East into a mirror of English politics, gender, and empire. And in harem and serial dramas, original the contain the ladies. Again, their consent, the food, the novel analysis, the serial image exposes patriarchal control. The Eastern setting questions English claims of freedom and female consent. And novel and original scattering the spoils of ruined provinces. Through the novel analysis, colonial wealth appears as plunder. The turning novel becomes a comic science of collusion inside which politics and familial alliances and Oriental tragedy of tyranny, of bondage and oppression. And analysis, Bayezid embodies Oriental despotism with Tamerlane is staged as the moral avenger of oppressed peoples and
Don't read it from paper, read it from there.
Okay. And social and aesthetic functions of Eastern imagery, the social functions, raw Tamerlane, and to serve the weak one, Eastern tragedy becomes a political language
of anti-tyranny and through the novel ruin of thousands. Colonial culture is exposed as moral and social violence, and the novel against their consent and surreal fantasy, dramas, and women's vulnerability and agency, and also Russell's choose of life. The Eastern frame tests alignment ideas of happiness and reason, and synthesizes the East words as Britain's mirror, and making variety, hierarchy, and imperial ambition visible. And backwards Westic whole of Ablis and original right hands on their hearts backwards Westic, and analyzes the whole of Ablis Turner's inner desire to invisible punishment. Oriental imagery creates fear, excess, and theoretical wonder. And in conclusion, Eastern imagery wasn't no decorative exotism. It served as a vessel for social criticism and moral reflection and cultural
Sorry, don't read
interpretation.
your conclusion, okay. But you're speaking only 4 minutes. Would you like to finish in 4 minutes? Then it's okay, we can ask some questions maybe. You want to talk about this Orientalism maybe, students?
Orientalism diyorlar, lekin mana okay. Tugatdim tugatdingizmi? Yaxshi. Unda savol beramiz. So questions to what's her name? Nigora. So I would like to know about the Oriental tale and its transformation in English literature. So as I looked through the chapters which you have in your dissertation, you include tales, poetry, and drama. In all of these genres, you observe Orientalism, yeah? Eastern views, or Eastern imagery, as you say. So please give us example for a tale where you observe Orientalism. Give a poetry, example of a poetry, and in English poetry where you observe Orientalism. And one example for English drama where you observe Orientalism.
Okay.
So because your job is to discuss this theme in the 18th century English literature, yeah?
Yes. So, first of all, thanks for your questions. According the questions, I reanalyzed the William Beckford's the novel is Westic. Mana shu Westic asarida Oriental tale'da
In English, please.
The Westic is hero, the novel, and he was a rich man, but he is not a good boy, and umanman bo'ladi va shu manman orqali o'zini xarob qiladi.
Is it Eastern theme? Manmanlik sharqiy odatmi?
No, mana shu sharq odati orqali ana shu
Yo'q, manmanlik faqat sharqda bor deyapsiz.
Yo'q, hamma joyda bor, lekin bu juda ham uch ko'z keladi.
Sharqiy mavzu. Endi sharqona mavzular.
Sharqona mavzularni mana 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 va ana shu 5 ta masalan xususiyatdan qaysi tale'da Qaysi poetrida, qaysi dramada? Savolim shu bilan bog'liq.
Oriental themes deganda nimani tushunyapsiz o'zi? Eastern themes.
Sharqona.
Nimalar o'sha? Nima? Sharqni ko'rsatuvchi haqiqiy narsalar nima?
Hikoyalar, ertaklar.
U yo'qmi boshqa joyda?
Yo'q, nima joyda? Sharqona hikoyalar, ertaklar.
Sharqona motivlar deyapsiz-da, ishingizda.
Sharqona motivlarga
mavzular
masalan
deyapsiz.
nima saroylar, haramlar misol uchun yoki o'sha asardagi moonlight and stars kirishi mumkin. Mana shular o'z ichiga qamrab oladi. Xuddi masalan Arabian Nights'ni olsak, mana sharqona nima odatlarni ko'ramiz. Motivlarga mana shular misol bo'la oladi.
Sharqni farqdan farqini ko'rsatadi. Okay. Now, Orientalism and Occidentalism. You know about it, yes?
Yes.
So, Occidentalism means that, you know, Eastern writers write about West. Okay? Orientalism, Western writers write about East. Okay. Now, the question is, now you know about it, the question is, so Orientalism and Occidentalism, sometimes I mostly think, like Edward Said's, if you have read about like Orientalism and Occidentalism, he wrote that Western people have no rights to learn or just to write about Eastern culture. So why? Because most Western writers found out negative features of East. Agar yaxshi tomonni ko'rsatganida edi, bu narsani aytmasdi Edward Said. Ular tahlil qilishni boshladi Sharqni. Sharq odatlarini tahlil qilishni boshladi, xato deganda qanaqadir. So, how do you understand that this idea that Western writers are writing about East from their own perspectives? Are they right? Do they have any rights to write about East?
I think it's right.
Yes, okay. Just it's your opinion. So why?
Because they describe their own ideas from this anashular orqali o'z o'sha fikrlarini, o'sha asarlarida
Savolimga javob bermadingiz.
motivlarga javob bergandim.
Yo'q. Savolimga javob bermadingiz-ku. Qani orientalizmni dramada, poetrida kuzatganingiz qani dedi. Savol qani ko'rsatmadingiz-ku.
Masalan, o'sha she'riyatda
Qani o'sha she'r? She'r qani?
William Collins bor edi, keyin
Bormi?
bor edi.
Prezentatsiyasini ko'rsating. Bo'ling o'sha she'rni.
Mana Collins bor ekan. Persian
Qani qayerda Collins?
mana bu tarafda qarang, Collins, Beckford and the second one is Collins. Bu tarafda. Collins, Persian apologies, it's yes.
O'sha she'rni o'zi qani? Nima?
Tashlama nomimi?
Nigora. She'rni nomi emas. So your topic is to identify or to look through the Eastern themes in English literature, yeah? So in the contents you include drama, poetry and tale. So we would like to see the examples of drama, poetry or tale where you found Oriental themes. Do you have any examples? So in the dissertation I could not find any examples. That's why I'm asking you. If you have here in your presentation, you may demonstrate. In order we could see what have you done.
Qatman o'sha she'rlarning nomi emas, o'zini, shoirlarning o'zini olib,
She'rni o'zini nima kerak? She'rni tahlil qilmasak. Uni o'zini ishini, asarini tahlil qilsak nima foyda undan? asar tahlil qilmaganmisiz?
Siz asar bitta ustoz savol bersam mana bilaman berdim. Siz asarni o'zini tahlil qilib,
asarni
yo'q, bu emas. Bu emas. İçini maqsadingiz ichi edimi, nima edimi?
ichi albatta.
Yo'q, ichi emasda o'sha avtorni aytib ketyapti. Bizga o'sha avtor ishlatgan orientalizmni ko'rsatib bering bizga misollaringiz bilan. Misollar orqali muallifni orientalizmga yo'nalgan o'sha g'oyalarni ochib bering. Ingliz adabiyotiga oriental g'oyalarni olib kirgan yozuvchini ishidan parcha keltiringda va o'shani asoslab bering bizga. Ana bu deng, mana bering bitta parchani va ayting ana bu yerda deng. Masalan, Collins deyapsiz, ha? Collins ishida o'sha orientalizmni ko'rsatgan. O'sha qaysi parcha, shu parchani bering.
Nima degan? Yaxshilaganmi, yomonlaganmi?
Nima degan shu?
Nima ma'noda ko'rsatyapti? Nima uchun shuni ko'rsatyapti?
Maqsad nima? Ko'rsatganda o'sha orientalizmni inglizcha tilga olib kirishdan maqsad nima bo'lgan ular? Ana shuni ko'rsatdingiz. Cevap yok mu? Savollar bormi? Okay,
Savol yo'q, komment aytmoqchiman.
Ha, okay.
Yaxshi. Maqola yozayotganda, siz maqola albatta yozgansiz, chunki magistrdan darajasini olmoqchisiz. Maqola yozayotganda maqolalar turlarini oldin o'rganishimiz kerakda. U conference paperdan boshlanadi. U conference paper qanaqadir maqola darajasida emas, shunchaki aytilayotgan nutq bo'ladi. Unda katta so'z bo'lmaydi, unda adabiyotlar ro'yxati bo'lmaydi, shunchaki gap bo'ladi. Faqatgina kichkinagina abstrakt bo'lishi mumkin. Keyin bundan tashqari har xil case study'lar bo'lishi mumkin. Va maqolaga ko'proq taalluqli bo'lgan yana qism bo'ladigan bunaqa narrative review bo'ladi, keyin systematic review bo'ladi. Uning nomi review article bo'ladi. Keyin bo'ladi research article bo'ladi. Ana buning nomi ilmiy ish. Research dissertation bu. Review dissertation emas, siz qilgan ish to'liq review. Olgansiz olimlarning fikrini hammasini bitta joyda jamlagansiz. Qanaqadir katta review bo'lib qolgan. Olimlarning fikridan faqat teoriya qism bor, isbot yo'q, evidence yo'q, proof yo'q. Faqat odamlarning fikri sizni dalilingiz bo'lyapti. Qanchalik buni ilmiy ish deb qabul qilsa bo'ladi. Chunki ilmiylik sezilmayapti. Ilmiy degani siz ilmga qanaqadir yangilik kirdingiz, nimadir qildingiz. Hech bo'lmasa nimadir qildingiz, boshqa odam qilmagan. O'zi siz boshqa odamlar qilgan narsalarni yig'ganingiz ilm bo'ladimi yo'qmi? Bu katta savol.
Mana Edward Said masalan, yo'q, u orientalizmni aniq ko'rsatib bergan nima ekanligini. Ular hozir o'sha sharqiy mavzuni o'rganayotganimizda aynan qaysi mavzularni o'rganyapti? Nima uchun sharqni o'rganyapti? Nimaga? Sabab nima? Bo'ladi-da sabab uni ortida. Yo'q-da, ishda u ham yo'q. Aynan qaysi sharqona mavzular? Nimalar kiradi sharqona mavzu? Identity bo'ladi-da, mana g'arbni o'zini identitysi bor, western identity. Nima western identity? Mag'rurlik masalan, ma'rifatparvarlik?
Sharqqa xos.
Sharqqa xos ma'rifatparvarlik. Okay, mana g'amxo'rlik, mehmondo'stlik sharqni nimalari, Arabian Nights dedingiz, arablarni chiroyli kechalari bor. Shunaqa chiroyli hikoyalar aytib beriladi, boshqa kunlarni hikoyalar aytib berilishi, birgalikda oila davrasida o'tirilishi. Ayting edi shularni hammasini. Ular mavzulari sharqqa xos mavzu. Mana shu mavzularni biz g'arbliklar qanaqa o'rgangan? Masalan, biz uchun bu normal qabul qilamiz. Shunday bo'lishimiz kerak. Bo'ldi, hayotimiz mana shunaqa o'tishi kerak, chunki biz sharqmiz. Xo'p, g'arb bizga nisbatan nima deyapti? Bilimsiz deyaptimi, aqlsiz deyaptimi, ancha nimada orqada qolganmizlar deyaptimi? Toping mana shu misollarni ko'rsating, mana orqada qolgan degan ma'noda yozganligini ko'rsating.
Vaholanki aksi.
Aslida
Vaholanki aksi. Sharq 13-asrda qishloq jangini nimada mutqo'shlar o'zini lug'at turkasalida tahlil qiladi. O'sha qishloq jangini aytib o'tadi. Yevropa 18-asrda boshlaydi nimasida yozadi. She'r bo'lib chiqadi. Inglizlar nima qishloq jangi. Vaholanki aksi. Bizda Navoiylar, Go'g'illar yashaganlar, o'rta qanaqa rivojlangan bo'lgan. Siz mana qarang, Hermandan beri bo'lgan kelganimizda Armeniston bo'ylidagi ba'zi joylarda u kishini asarlarida mana qancha orientalistik g'oyalarni, o'sha to'ylarni hayron qolib qiladi yoki mana Yalov bizga kelib mana shu Buxoroda yashab to'ylarimizni ko'radi-yu, men hayronman deydi. Nimaga kelib 400 kishini to'ydalab to'y qilish deydi. Vaholanki bu bizning qadriyatimiz. Onu tushunmaydi. Nima kerak deydi, 400 kishini sarflab to'y qilish deydi. Ana oriental o'qiyapti. Ana shu narsani, mana shunaqa narsalarni siz ingliz adabiyotiga olib kirilganini ko'rsatib berishingiz kerak edi. Yoki Qublaxonda ham bor. Qublaxon narsa bilasizmi? Qublaxonda ham bor oriental mavzular. O'sha ana Mo'g'ul imperatori Qublaxon haqida gapiradi-yu, o'sha o'yinda, o'sha asarda, poemada nimalarni ham beradi. Oriental mavzularni ham berib qo'yadi. Siz mana shunaqa asarlarda, xususiyatli drama deyapsiz, poetika, uch xil janrni olyapsiz. Bitta janrni olib, bitta janrning ichidagi bir nechta ishni olish mumkin edi. Deylik, teyil bo'lsa, bir nechta teyilni tahlil qilish mumkin. Oriental nima bo'yicha, oriental g'oyalar bo'yicha, orientalizm bo'yicha. Yoki siz aytgandek Eastern views bo'yicha. Eastern issues nima? Eastern theme. Masalan. Da endi siz aytadigancha qiladigan bo'lsangiz. Nimaga ana shu narsalarga ahamiyat? Agar siz shu narsalarni 18-asr adabiyotida yoritilgan misollarni topib, misollarni tahlil qilganingizda siz bilasizmi o'z ishingiz qanaqa zo'r nima bo'lardi. Siz o'zingizni nimangizni sharqona nimangizni maqib chiqqan bo'lardingiz. O'sha narsani ko'rdingiz. Zo'r yo'q. Mayli, savollar bormi yana? Okay, if you don't have any questions, we will move to the reviewing part. The first review is the Arabism of the What are you actually going to get? Sizni qo'yganlar,
uch kishini yaxshi ko'rganlar tamom. Zarnigorni, o'zlarini, sizdan so'rayman. Tamam, boshqa kishi hammadan xafa bo'lgan savollar chiqadi.
Endi har safar tafrizimizni o'zgina izoh bilan boshlaymiz o'qishni. Demak, beriladigan tafrizlarning barchasi dissertantga emas, dissertantni olib kelgan ishiga beriladi. Shu narsaga alohida urg'u qaratmoqchiman. Chunki himoya kuniga qadar tafrizchilar faqat ishni o'zi bilan ishlaydi, shug'ullanadi. Bevosita dissertant bilan savol-javob qilishga nimasi bo'lmaydi. Sharoiti bo'lmaydi. Xo'p, Osiyo xalqaro universiteti 701 kollej tili va adabiyoti, ingliz tili va adabiyoti mutaxassisligi 2-bosqich magistranti Xolmurodova Nigora Ibodovna tomonidan magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun yozilgan magistrlik tadqiqot ishiga tafriz. Demak, ishlaridagi mavjud yutuqlar qatorida kamchiliklar ham mavjud. Ushbu kamchiliklar iqtibosliklardagi rasmiylashtirishlarda, ayrim sahifalardagi ba'zi bir texnik va imloviy kamchiliklar deb qabul qilingan. Ushbu kamchiliklar bartaraf etildi. dissertant ishini, magistrant dissertatsiya ishini oxirgi variantini yubordi. Demak, aytilgan, ko'rsatilgan kamchiliklarning barchasi o'z yo'lida qaytib kirib chiqilgan. Osiyo Xalqaro Universiteti 701, 1901 Xorijiy til va adabiyoti ingliz tili va adabiyoti mutaxassisligi ikkinchi bosqich magistranti Xosmurod va Nigora Ibodovnaning o'z mutaxassisligi bo'yicha magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun yozilgan dissertatsiyasi mustaqil ravishda olib borilgan. Yakunlangan ilmiy ish bo'lib, magistr akademik darajasini olish uchun qo'yilgan dissertatsiya talablarining barchasiga to'liq mos keladi. Dissertatsiyani ijobiy baholayman va uni himoyaga tavsiya etaman. Osiyo Xalqaro Universiteti dotsenti, filologiya fanlari bo'yicha falsafa doktori PhD kaparaman. Ijozatlari bilan tashqi tadrisni ham o'qib eshittirsam, demak, tashqi tadrisimiz O'zbek tili va xorijiy tillar kafedrasi Buxoro davlat texnika universiteti dotsenti, filologiya fanlari bo'yicha falsafa doktori PhD Rajabova M. Abduladilar. Ustozimiz ham Nigora Ibodovnaning magistrlik dissertatsiyalaridagi bir qancha yutuqlarni sanab o'tganlar. Demak, ular bilan bir qatorda kamchiliklarni ham kuzatibdilar. Demak, birinchisi, ayrim boblarda misollar sonini yanada ko'paytirish maqsadga muvofiq bo'lar edi. Ushbu e'tiroz hozir ham sizga bildirildi komissiya a'zolari tomonidan. Demak, yaxshi e'tibor bermabsiz. Matnda uchraydigan ayrim uslubiy va imloviy xatolar tahrirni talab qiladi. Bibliografik rasmiylashtirishda kichik texnik noaniqliklar mavjud. Ayrim xulosalar yanada ixcham va aniq shaklda ifodalansa maqsadga muvofiq bo'lar edi. Ayrim paragraflarda tavsifiy bayon tahliliy yondashuvdan ustunroq ko'rinadi. Biroq yuqorida qayd etilgan kamchiliklar dissertatsiyaning umumiy ilmiy saviyasiga jiddiy ta'sir ko'rsatmaydi. Dissertatsiyaning ilmiy yangiligi sifatida 18-asr ingliz adabiyotidagi sharq mavzusining tarixiy, madaniy va adabiy kontekstda kompleks tahlil qilinganini alohida ta'kidlash lozim. Magistrant tomonidan oriental motivlarning ingliz madaniy ongidagi funksiyasi, sharq obrazlarining badiiy transformatsiyasi hamda orientalizmning adabiy estetik tabiati mustaqil ilmiy yondashuv asosida tadqiq etilgan. Shu munosabat bilan dissertatsiya himoyaga tavsiya etiladi va muallif magistrlik akademik darajasiga loyiq deb topildi. Yuqorida aytganimdek, tadqiqchi Buxoro davlat texnika universiteti o'zbek va xorijiy tillar kafedrasi dotsenti, filologiya fanlari bo'yicha falsafa doktori PhD Rajabova.
Marjona, Mehrinson,
I would like to thank all my teachers who supported me, especially my scientific supervisor, and and thank you for the present. And
Special thanks to them, yeah?
all of them.
Special thanks to them. Because they worked with you.
Yana shuni katta narsani aytib o'tmoqchi edim. Shu Xudo xohlasa 2020-2021 yilda PhD ishimni olib borganda mana shu xatolik, kamchiliklarni inobatga olgan holda ustozlarimning maslahatlari va yordamlariga tayangan holda davom ettirmoqchiman.
2027'de PhD уже.
Xudo xohlasa
Yaxshi niyat.
yaxshi
niyat.
Bunday tajribalardan bu kishining xabarlari
Nigora Ibodovna chiqib, biz kelishib olaylik, baholarni hisoblaylik, keyin dastlab.
Qanday chidab ko'ribsiz? Bu yerda o'tirganlarcha o'tiringlar.
Sizni ham so'rlar bo'lib magistrlikdan bu kishi kelmaganim uchun to'rtta bo'ldi deyapman, uzr so'rayman. Xo'sh, demak, 3 kishi hamma bor, bugun qatnashganlar hammasi bor. Unda nima? Keyin aytib ketaman. Obidova Feruza Jumayevna. Qanday? Sizmi? 72. Husaynova Dildoraxon. 74. Sharipova Nargiza. 88. Latifova Rayhon. 91. Abdullayeva Bekajonxon. 79. Adizova Nozima kirmadi bugun. Qodirova Yulduzxon. 68. Bekmurodova Sadoqat. Qanday? 78. Neuropsycholinguisticsni ta'sir kuchini bugun sizga ko'rsatib berdik. Endi Xudo xohlasa keyingi ishingizda siz neuropsycholinguistics ta'sir kuchini kengash a'zolariga ko'rsatib berasiz. Tushundingizmi? Men nima deyapman, tushundingiz? Ishingizni davom ettirib, o'shani kengash a'zolariga nimaligini tushuntirib berasiz. Lekin bizlarning aytgan takliflarimizni inobatga olgan holda rahbaringiz bilan yaxshigina ishlab ishlaysiz. Chiqarasiz. Yaxshi. Keyingi kishi Sotvoldiyeva Nazilaxon. Qani? 73. Komilova Zilolaxon. 90. Ramazon Boshaqnoza. 49. Nasimova Feruza. 76. Nasliyeva Mahliyeva. 71. Qolmurodova Nigora. 60. Xo'sh, ana bu sizlarning bugungi chiqishlaringiz va har bir komissiya o'sha berilgan mezonlar asosida sizni baholab, mana oxirida baholar umumlashtirilib bo'linib komissiya a'zolariga boshidan aytdim, tushuntirdim qanday baholar berilganini. E'lon qildik, mana baholaringizni e'lon qildik. Ertalabdan mana shu yerda nima bo'lib, hozir soat necha bo'ldi? 5 bo'ldimi? 5 dan ham o'tibdi. Mana kuni bo'yi o'tirib, bugun 4-kun ishlayapmiz. Komissiyaga oson emas, buncha ishni har birini dissertatsiyasining yangiligini mag'zini chaqib, uni ichidan savol berib, sizlar gapira olmagan narsani ishlashdan tortib olish qiyin judayam. Lekin shunday bo'lsa-da ham, shunaqa bo'lsa ham, mana shu komissiya a'zolariga rahmat aytaman, chunki har bittalari har bir prezentatsiyaga, har bir dissertantni chiqishiga alohida e'tibor qaratyaptilar, savollar beryaptilar. man bu uchun albatta minnatdorchilik bildiraman komissiya a'zolariga, chunki komissiya a'zolari hamjihatlikda ishlamasa ishlab bo'lmaydi. Shuning uchun man o'z minnatdorchiligimni bildiraman. Endi ballaringiz e'lon qilindi. Agar kimda e'tiroz bo'lsa, hozir aytsin. Komissiya faoliyatini to'xtatmasdan, komissiya shu xonadan chiqib ketmasdan e'tirozlar bo'lsa, nimadir fikrlari bo'lsa aytinglar. Kimda e'tiroz bo'lsa, boshida ham aytdim, nimani boshlashdan oldin, taqdimotlarni boshlashdan oldin aytdim. Kimda e'tiroz bo'lsa, YouTube kanalida to'g'ridan-to'g'ri translyatsiya bo'lyapti. O'sha e'tiroz bildirgan kishini o'zini nimasini qirqib ko'rsatib beramiz. E'tiroz bormi? Fikrlar bormi? Yo'q, fikr ham yo'q, e'tiroz ham yo'q. E'tiborlar uchun rahmat.
Xatolarimizni
Bilib bo'ldingizlar. Yaxshi. Bu yaxshi. Tan olish ham mardlik. To'g'rimi? Tan olish ham mardlik. Biz bu yerdan hozir sizni yiqitamiz deb bugun eshikdan kirganimiz yo'q. Yoki sizni yig'latamiz deb eshikdan kirganimiz yo'q. Biz ham xayrixoh. Biz ham xohlaymiz bizlarni vatanimizga, bizlarni O'zbekistonimizga yaxshi kadrlar yetishib chiqishini xohlaymiz. Hamma xohlaydi. Chunki bizlarni farzandlarimizni kim tarbiyalaydi? O'qimishli onalar tarbiyalaydi. Nevaralarimizni kim tarbiyalaydi? O'qimishli onalar tarbiyalaydi. Shu uchun sizlarni o'qimishli bo'lganlaringiz vatanimizga foyda. O'qimay, hechini bilmay, diplom olib ketganlaringiz zararli. Kimnidir hayotiga xavf solasizlar. Shu uchun bunaqa narsalardan xafa bo'lish kerak emas. Bilimimiz yetmaydimi? Uni tan olishni ham bilishimiz kerak. Bu tan olish ham bir bandlik, bir jasurlik bu. Rahmat tan olganlaringiz uchun. Biz ham bu yerda kuni bo'yi o'tirib mana shu yerda sizlarni har birlaringizni yig'laringizni ko'rdik, hayajonlanganlaringizni ko'rdik, kulganlaringizni ko'rdik. Kimdir vobshe parvosiga kelmay chiqib ketganini ham ko'rdik, mayli. Bu har bir kishini o'zini perceptioni, ya'ni har qanday holatda o'zini qanday tutishi, har kimning o'zini xarakteridan kelib chiqadi. Bu narsa uchun zarur. Hammalaringizni tabriklayman. Keyingi ishlaringizda omad tilayman. Magistr akademik darajasini olishga loyiq deb topilganliklaringiz bilan yana bir marta tabriklayman. Omad yor bo'lsin. Kelgusi ishlaringizda muvaffaqiyatlar yor bo'lsin.
Yoksa diyorum ben.